Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fred Lawrence. I am the Communication Officer for GSA, and I really just want to start by saying what a pleasure it is to speak to all of you. I actually just started in the fall, so it was only a few months ago that I was sitting right in this auditorium listening to all these orientation speeches, and it just goes to prove what Dean Pottinger was saying. There are so many opportunities to get involved immediately in your program as a graduate student. GVSU offers us many, many things, and you really should. I encourage you all to take the time to get involved in other ways than just going to class. So with that being said, I'm going to speak to you about the Graduate Student Association today and what it is we strive to do. We wear a lot of different hats, but really, I guess the two biggest things that we try to do in GSA is to act as a liaison or representative of graduate students throughout the university, speak to graduate student needs and represent you guys. And we also try to promote interdisciplinary relationships with each other. Basically, the way I look at it is everything that you've done up to this point, whether it's past education, professional experience, personal experience, life experience, everything that you've done adds value. You all have something that's gotten you here, and you're here for a reason, and your peers are the same. So it only benefits the graduate community for you to share all your knowledge and experience with each other. It makes for a better experience overall, it makes GVSU stronger, and it provides more value to you as a student. So basically, GSA is trying to build and give opportunities to all of you guys to be able to do that. One way that we do that is through PACES workshops. And what PACES are is they are free professional workshops that the university puts on. They're really, really cool. We do 2 each semester. We did 2 in the fall, and we've got 2 coming up in the spring. I would highly encourage you guys to sign up for these. It's a great way for you as students to meet people that are not in your graduate program. It's really easy to focus on what you're doing and what classes you're in. I'm in the MBA program, so I see business students all day, every day, all the time. Through going to PACES and getting involved in GSA, I've met students in the education program, I've met students in social work and engineering, and I've been able to make relationships with other students that I otherwise wouldn't have. PACES is a great way to do that. They're free, you get to go in the morning, you get a nice breakfast spread, and the university brings in professionals and teachers from the community and the school to speak on subject matter that is relevant to what you want to do. The first one in January, starting your career in tomorrow's world. A lot of us as students, we get really focused, we get tunnel vision on what we're doing in school, and sometimes we lose focus on the end game, what we're actually going to do. So this is going to be a great workshop for you. And then, of course, we've got Beyond Being an Ally and Balancing Advocacy and Professionalism. If these are things that are interesting to you, they're free. And I would highly encourage you to go meet some other graduate students and network. That being said, more ways for you guys to get involved. GSA, we've got 5 officer positions, and they are yearly. So this spring, we're going to be looking for new officers to fill these positions. And that's something that I can speak to because the experience that I've had being an officer is invaluable to me. You get to meet people in the university, you get to meet leaders in the university, and you get to meet so many graduate students. So if you think that,
Dean? Could you go back to your previous slide?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just for them to see, to keep going one more, and maybe sort of share those are the 5 positions that are on your e-board, correct?
Absolutely.
And do you mind telling everybody what different programs they're from? Because I think that'll help them get a better understanding of how you get to meet a lot of people.
Absolutely.
From other programs.
Lauren's our president, and Lauren is in public administration. She's just finishing up here this spring. Colette is also an MBA student like myself. Nadina is in engineering. And Shar, correct me if I'm wrong, is she social work? I think she is. I don't know off the top of my head. And then, of course, I'm in the business program. So it is a pretty diverse set of individuals. Yeah, no problem. So anyways, to kind of wrap it up, I know I'm getting kind of long-winded. Get involved early. An executive officer position opened up my first semester, and I threw my hat in the ring, and I haven't regretted it. So if this is something you think you'd like to do, I would highly recommend doing this. Just a few more opportunities for you all to get involved. Get involved with an RSO in your program. That is so important. There's so much more you can do by getting involved in clubs, especially submitting funding requests. If you're part of an RSO, you can come to our funding board meetings with your RSO, and you can submit funding requests to do research and to go on trips, to do things that are going to truly add value to your experience here. We, the university, GSA, we want you to do these things. We want to promote these things. We want you to get more out of your experience here than just being a student that pushes papers and gets a degree. Join an RSO and look into doing some of these extra things. Grad Hub, this is a social event that GSA puts on every week. Basically, we meet at a restaurant or a bar, and we just have a couple drinks, we hang out, and we just visit with each other and get to know each other. It's very informal and a good time that I'd encourage all of you to go to as well. Standing committees, I don't know the list of them off the top of my head, but they are on the GSA website through gvsu.edu. And basically, the committees are involved with different schools in the graduate school, and they're just another way for you as a student to get involved with leaders at our university and do things that make a difference. So finally, if you have any concerns or feedback, GSA is here to represent you guys as students, so please reach out to us and get involved in any way you can. I'm going to stress it again. With that being said, you can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and OrgSync. As new students, if you don't know what OrgSync is, look it up through the GVSU website. It's kind of like a social network for GVSU groups, and it's really one of the best ways to communicate with students, other students, and RSOs. So with that being said, welcome to GVSU, and we hope to see you involved as soon as possible.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Smart. I'm the Vice Provost for Research Administration and Executive Director for the Center for Scholarly and Creative Excellence. And in the next 10 minutes, I'm supposed to give you an overview of the services of research support that will make you successful as a scholar here at GVSU. But before I begin, I too want to welcome you to GVSU, and I want you to cherish the moment. I really think that it is important that you do that. If I look back at my career as a professional, my graduate years in graduate school were the very best. And I actually long to go back to graduate school quite often in my career here at Grand Valley State University, because it was a time in which I could study the things that I wanted to study, and I could delve deep into something and discover new technologies, new pathways for my scholarship. And so I ask you whether you are going to be doing research and doing research for a dissertation or a research thesis, or doing a research project with a faculty member, or having a research project incorporated into a class. The question I always ask is, where will your curiosity take you? And quite often I will have a meeting with a faculty member, and that's the first thing that I ask them is, what are you interested in? And if you had the ability to do anything that you wanted to, study anything that you want, what would you study? And find your passion and then do it. And so the mission for the Center for Scholarly and Creative Excellence is to encourage, facilitate, and support the Grand Valley community. And the Grand Valley community is its faculty, staff, and students, whether they're graduate students or undergraduate students. The university has a large support structure to make you successful in your research. And I try to break these down into 4 areas. The 4 areas are mentoring and consultation. And as I said, there is not a day that does not go by that I don't meet with a faculty member or a graduate student. And we sit down and we talk about their research agenda. How do you develop a research project that is manageable and will turn out to be successful? And I enjoy doing that, because then I find out so much more about all the faculty's interest and the graduate students' interest here at the university. The biggest thing that I'm going to talk about today is seed funding, because most of the time it is time and money that stop you from doing something. And I'm going to show you there are money sources here at the university for both to do your research and also to disseminate your research that is available to you and only to you as graduate students. And then part of my job is making connections, and making connections within the university. So let's say you're an engineer and you are interested in developing a medical device, but you don't know who to talk to in the physical therapy department or the nursing, College of Nursing, or maybe a physician in the area. Well, reach out to me and I will make sure that I will make that connection for you, or at least find the person to make that connection for you. So part of my job is to help make those connections so that you're successful. And then one of the things that we always are concerned about is compliance oversight. Some of you will be doing research projects that involve human subjects. And some of you will be doing research that might be on aquatic biology, and you might be looking at birds or something like that. There are regulations in the federal government that dictate to us how we have to protect these vulnerable populations or populations of participants, whether they're animals or humans. And so I always have to be concerned about compliance, and I try to relay ethical research standards to our faculty and students. So hit on the most important thing is internal support. So quite often you go, how do I get funding so that I can do the project that I want to do? And we almost like, how do I get funding? And that is true. As graduate students, you have the ability to have funds available for you to do scholarship. And there are a couple ones that I want to point to. The first one on the bottom is the Academic Conference Fund. So after you complete your research, you should, and I guess research is never done, in my opinion, until you disseminate that knowledge to someone else. And so how do you go to a conference and present that work? And actually, that's a great networking time. Actually, my first job at 3M, my second job with General Motors, and my teaching positions at Calvin and Grand Valley all came from when I gave presentations at conferences. How do I get to that conference to make those connections to get that next job? We have the Academic Conference Fund, which is located, if you go into the graduate schools website, there is a drop-down button for funding sources, and there's an Academic Conference Fund, and they provide $500 and $750 for international travel to conferences. I tell a lot of people that will get you there, but not necessarily back, but it sure is it gets you a long way, $750. So make sure that you take advantage of that. It's there, and all you have to do is really be accepted to a conference and have an abstract. Then there's Open Access Publishing Fund. The university has set aside $3,000 per graduate student, per faculty member, per year to publish their work in open access formats. So an open access journal. So quite often that prevents a lot of faculty and graduate students from publishing that cost, that burden to publish. The university picks up that cost for you, up to $3,000 a year. And then the presidential research grants, they are $1,500 now, $1,500 now.
Plus $500.
See, so the dean should have been up here giving this presentation, but I serve on his committee, his review committee for this. It is offered several times a year, and it's open only to graduate students, and it's $1,500 plus $500 for travel. So it's a $2,000 award for graduate students to do their scholarship. And it's necessary supplies, travel, yada, yada, yada. All right? All right, so that's how you would get funding. But there's another way to support your scholarship, and that is through your faculty members, your faculty mentors. Your faculty mentor, and if you can always remind them of this, they can write you into any proposal that they submit, whether it's to a federal agency, the NSF, the NIH, the National Endowment for the Arts. They can write you your stipend as well as sometimes your tuition dollars into their grant, and that would pay for your time here at the university. They have internal grants too.
Before you do
Yep.
that, can I make one comment? Because I think
Love to.
this is really important. So Bob talked about funding from faculty members to external agencies. What Grand Valley will do is Bob and I have a collaborative effort together so that if a faculty member writes a grant and pays for your stipend, in other words, pays for your sort of hourly wage, I will provide you with a tuition waiver that you don't have to pay tuition. So what I'm trying to say is encourage your faculty mentors, the people you're working with, hey, write that grant. Bob and I, our offices help out by helping with the development of the idea, helping submission of the proposal, and then if that person gets funded and you're the graduate assistant, you basically go to school for free and you get paid. Now, it's tough to think of a better scenario than that when you're going to graduate school.
And-
So, don't dismiss the information that Bob's providing because, oh, well, it's for faculty. No. If that faculty member ties you in with their grant, you get to go to school for free. So,
And I strongly encourage it, because also, if those types of funds or proposals are accepted, those are highly vetted by the agencies, so they see that research has significant promise. And quite often, you are going to then be co-authors on a number of publications, which really lands you that next job. And so I strongly encourage, as the dean said, is to encourage your faculty to consider that as a funding source for you. Internally, and that takes about 6 months. So you go, I need something faster than that. Well, we have internal funds up to $10,000 through the CSEE for some of our faculty members. And they can provide stipends to you to do the scholarship. And they can also provide the supplies. They just have to be the authors, the principal investigator of that proposal. But in any way, they can provide your support into those projects. Then there are a number of research opportunities that support your research that fall outside the CSEE, but I also want you to be aware of. Quite often you will be doing analysis of your data. And some of you are statistical experts and others are novices. We have a statistical consulting center, and I give you the phone number and the website at the bottom, but it's a free service at the university, and they will help you with not only the analysis of the data that you receive, but they will help you design the questionnaire, the survey, so that the results that you get back, the data that you get back, are valid. And so quite often you'll do a project that if you don't have the right questions up front, you're going to get invalid data at the end. And so what the Statistical Consulting Center will do, it will help you design the research questions that you are asking and make sure that once you get that information back, they will help you crunch the data, and essentially you need to write up your research. All right? And there are places to help you write up the research too. If you struggle with writing, sometimes I have writer's block and it just drives me absolutely nuts that I need to write something, a couple pages, and it takes me days to do it, and I don't know why it does. But I get writer's block occasionally. I'd like to have a second set of eyes look over my work. The Frederick Meyer Center for Writing and Michigan Authors will provide you that service. So they will help you with your writing, and that is a free service at the university. And then quite often, the speaker is left with some suggestions, and I'm going to offer the same sort of key suggestions. I've heard them already, but I will try to reiterate some of the key points. First, I think what you need to do is you follow your passion, as the Associate Dean said. Follow your passion, and then you'll be successful. So do research in areas that interest you. If you want to work with a faculty member and you find that their research, his or her research, is boring, by all means, don't do research with him or her. Do something in which you find interesting, because you'll be successful if it's interesting. Talk to other graduate students who are in those research groups and ask them what they are doing. Ask them how they collect the data. Use them, all right? Use them as mentors to you as a novice researcher within the group. I think that my graduate career, getting my doctorate degree, would have taken an extra 6 to 8 months if I did not glom on to a fourth-year graduate student in my first year, where he showed me all those secrets about how to analyze some of the work that we were doing in our group. And so I'm very fortunate to have a mentor, a graduate student mentor. I'm hoping that you find one too. So keep a research notebooklet, and this might sound funny, but I have a research notebooklet in my book bag. I have a research pad in my car, and I have one in my house. And if I'm driving and I have an idea or a thought, I'm getting to an age where I start to forget things quite often. I jot it down. I hit the stoplight, and instead of texting somebody like everybody else seems to be doing, I jot down that idea as fast as I possibly can before I forget that. And quite often, if you keep that notes, you will find a unique, interesting idea that may be commercializable, and you might be able to even launch a company. I'll get back to that. Our center does that for you too. So if you have an idea that has commercialization or commercializable potential, our university will help support you in protecting that intellectual property and help you either license that technology to another company or a company and you get royalties from that, or will help you launch a business and then you become successful entrepreneurs. So our center does that type of material, that thing too. So let me add that to the conversation. And then once you decide on a research project, and this is where the dean mentioned at the end, you have to be very careful about how you choose a research project because sometimes they take longer than you think. You have to decide if there is any compliance issues. Am I going to need human subjects approval before doing this work? If the answer is yes, you have to bake in, depending upon how risky that research is to the human participant, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 2 months, depending upon if it's a full board review by the committee. So you have to decide that right up front, because if you wanted to graduate this May, I know you won't be because you're just starting here, but in May, there's no way you can do a human subjects research proposal, do the research, get it all written up, and finish that if you have to wait 2 months to get a review. Do I need money to be successful? And if I do need money, how much money? And that's the first thing I ask any faculty member or graduate student who comes to my office. What does your budget look like? Because there are different ponds to fish in depending upon how much money it is. If it's $500, that's easy. If it's $100,000, well, we got to sit down and think about it a little bit longer, all right? And then, can this research be done in the time frame that I want it to be done? I had a colleague in graduate school that took 8 years to finish his doctorate degree. I had no intention of being in graduate school for 8 years. I wanted to make sure my project got done in my 4 years while I was there. So please plan accordingly. Choose a project that fits best with you. Oops, and I have no idea when and where should I disseminate my work. And I think that that's also very important, because quite often when you are going to present your work, those conference deadlines are 6 to 8 months before, and you have to submit your abstract. So make sure that you know when those timeframes are, and then you're applying to the graduate school's website for academic conference funds for that trip. I think they'll stop there. If there's any questions, feel free to ask me. Otherwise, call me or send me an email. I will be glad to meet you for coffee anytime you like, and we can chat about your scholarship. So thank you.